So we've noticed that there's been a little bit of a snack slowdown. Is that what's going on here, Mike?
Yeah, so
From your
General
topics?
Yeah, so General Mills is one of the largest snack companies out there, providing packaged like snacks basically. A lot of their products. Now, they recently had their earnings call, which was a interesting earnings call across the board, not just from regular processed like snacks to also organic. Sales have been down 5%. Now the question is it because of the times? Meaning, has inflation taken over of people buying less, or is it because people becoming more health oriented and understanding that processed food, processed snacks are not healthy for you? So what do you guys think? Do you think it's the sign of the times, people are just cutting back on costs, or do you think people are being a little bit more health oriented?
Well, I think that there's definitely sort of a red pill, blue pill. Like if you tell people that what they're eating is not good for them, there is going to be a portion of people that stop eating it just naturally. But we've been lied to for so long, just assuming that these things are healthy and finding out that they're not. So now it's really difficult to like consciously put something in your mouth that you know isn't good for you.
What about you, Ricardo? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little too soon for me on this, just on consumer behavior. You know, because sometimes consumer behavior doesn't make any fucking sense. So, like, I'm going to go ahead and just tee this one up for now to awareness. Right? I do believe that. What's his name? The homeboy that does all the fucking push-ups, RFK.
David
Yeah. So I do.
Goggins?
No.
Goggins.
The guy who's the health of human services.
RFK Jr. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, RFK Jr.
yeah. So I do
Well, you
believe
said
that.
push-ups, not RFK Jr.
Right. So like I do believe out of all of the lunacy that this guy has spouted, that the one good thing that he has done is he's become sort of a beacon for Americans to take a look at sort of what they're putting into their bodies more. I'm going to give it up to women because women having to give birth, I think, pay a lot more attention to what they put into their bodies than men. I remember my mom was always more worried about my sister than like what I was eating because, of the whole reproduction thing. So I think girls have been kind of doing this for a while. But I also think there's been a lack of information out there. And that, now that we're done bickering with each other, that some people are actually going to go out and do some stuff. And I would love to see people eating healthier snacks, especially less processed foods, because a lot of these are just products that are designed to be consumed over and over again, and they don't really give you any nutritional value. And looks like what we're finding out is that some of them are extremely harmful. And I got to tell you, I'm going to say this: my dad is 91 years old. He's pretty healthy. I mean, he's got some memory issues, but like most people, this guy's been eating raw materials ever since I've known him. He's eaten nothing but bread, cheese, salad, fish, steak. He doesn't touch chicken. Hates the way it tastes, and fish and wine and coffee. The 45 years of knowing this motherfucker, that's all he's put in his body, and the guy is still killing it, still kicking. So, and he grew up with a diet from South America that he never got accustomed to the U.S. diet. I mean, because I don't think he's ever tried a Dorito, right? But if he did, he'd be addicted. I'm telling you, because I tried Doritos and they're fucking delicious. But so there's a lot of this kind of like awareness that I think is moving. So I'm going to put it up to awareness, and I want to say I hope that people out there are paying a little bit more attention as to, and I'm going to say this in this way, not what they're putting in their body, who the fuck is selling it to you. Figure out who's behind whatever you're about to consume, and it's a pretty good way of deciding yes or no. You pick out an orange, who's behind that? Jesus, he's behind that. It's okay to eat an orange. You pick up a box of cereal, who's behind it? All the investors, the assholes who started the company, everyone on TV who's being paid to promote. And so, like, this is not necessarily something or a group of people that have your best interest. So instead of saying people, hey, pay attention to what you put in your body, I would like people to pay attention who the person is that's selling you the thing that you're about to put in your body.
Yeah. So I'll give you my take. I think it's a combination of things. I think over the last, how many years everybody has been talking about health-oriented food. So I think people are a little bit more accustomed. However, what, is really what a lot of people are starting to notice is who's consuming these products, right? And a lot of the time, processed foods are consumed by the lower class, believe it or not, because of the cost of those products. So it's easier to fill up on a bag of chips compared to buying steaks and eggs and a lot of these other more expensive items. The second thing, though, is I think it's also cost. I think the price of things are going up. The inflationary factors are contributing to this. And instead of buying 10 bags of Doritos, they're probably buying 5 bags of Doritos, and they're spending their money on other household items that are necessary. So I think it's a combination of both. But it's definitely, consumers are definitely more aware of the food that they're putting into their bodies, because it's not just General Mills. You have McDonald's trying to come out with healthier items. You have all these companies that are trying to promote healthier products. So you definitely have a combination of both.
Taco Bell has their Cantina menu or whatever now.
Bomb. Don't talk bad about Taco Bell.
Taco Bell's delicious, but I think Mike, you have a point there too. I saw something recently that were saying that like RFK is trying to get it so that you can't use welfare or EBT to pay for processed foods, and I know that a lot of these companies it's sort of like government subsidized. So like, I didn't notice coming, living in DC or the suburbs, but like here in San Diego, there's a 7-Eleven on every corner. I live downtown, there's people everywhere. And I never realized, how many poor people or people that have assistance were using that to buy shitty food. And I was like, this is a fucking racket. These companies are literally lobbying the government to allow these people to continue to, it's just like a revenue stream. And so if we can make it so that you can only buy things that are good for you with our tax dollars, God forbid that happen. I mean, who would it help?
I still think people should have the opportunity to buy them. I'm not against anybody saying you can't buy them. But I think if you create more awareness, if you create healthier options that are cheaper, like you can buy a bag of Doritos for $3.99 or $6.99 depending on the size of the bag. But at the same time, you could also buy a bag of carrots for 99 cents or $1.99. You still have both of those options. The problem is just awareness and education. And the most important thing right now that's been happening, which I am happy with RFK, is he's bringing people awareness of what these companies are doing. Remember, you are a consumer. You are the one they rely on to buy the product. So it's manipulation, and that's how they make money.
Think of it this way, guys. So, like, my thing is with chefs, and shout out to all my friends that are chefs. Shout out Carla. Shout out everybody. It's nothing against you guys. So, this is an industry where you go to school to learn how to feed people. And the most expensive meal in that industry isn't the most nutritious. What the fuck are you learning at chef school? You're not learning how to feed people. What you're learning is how to manipulate people into falling in love with a taste that they need to come back for. And that's not healthy for anyone. What you should do is open a restaurant, and the most expensive thing is the best thing for you. Maybe that fucking thing cures cancer. But like the incentive structure is all screwed up, dude. All screwed up, right? It's all about like status and all that stuff. And so I think things have gotten a little bit out of control with the capitalism on that side. Some things, especially things that belong to human beings and health and welfare, shouldn't be managed by the invisible hand of capitalism, I don't think.
Yeah, I think that the insidious part of it is the differences between like Mexico and like the US and the product. Like, so like Coke is the best example I can think of. And like Coke in Mexico is cane sugar, and Coke in the United States of America has, high fructose corn syrup. And high fructose corn syrup is like almost as addictive as heroin. And so like, why is there this massive difference in the quality in the ingredients of the product in America versus other countries? And it goes back to the capitalism thing. But I think the problem is that it changed somewhere in our lifetime. And so the products that we consume when we were kids weren't necessarily bad for us. But the products we're consuming as adults now in our 30s and 40s, they've changed. Now they're full of all these ingredients that are just not good for the human body. And so, RFK is an example of someone who's kind of bringing some of that stuff to light. Like, why is there such a massive difference between what I eat in the UK and what I eat in the US? And why is there such a difference between Canada and Mexico and the US? And it's greed in a lot of cases. But it's misinformation, I think, is one of the biggest problems.
A lot of it too can be complacency, and then one of these things that I think I read this book by the Koch brothers, who I think are probably evil motherfuckers, whatever, allegedly. But they had a really good point, and the whole book was about this thing called creative destruction, and I really liked that. And they talked about how they got so much money and got rich, and one of the things they said is like they realized one of their products was running out of life cycle, and they would destroy that company and like create the next product, and it was called creative destruction. And what's happening is a lot of motherfuckers that aren't used to having money, as soon as they tap into a revenue stream, will suck that revenue stream dry, right? And it doesn't innovate. They're not improving the product. They just try to take the product to other markets instead of listening to the feedback. And so this is what I mean, like where like the invisible hand of capitalism is somewhere missing, right? The whole point is that like, and I've been an advocate of this, where it's like, look, after your product reaches, and you can time this, right? A maturity in the life cycle, we're going to tax you 80% on those profits unless you use those profits for R&D in another product, and then you can save money on taxes. But if you want to sit there and milk the fucking cow, we're going to take most of that money from you, because the whole point of you having all the resources is to make shit better, not for you to get rich.
Right, leveraging the infrastructure that we've built in America to benefit Americans.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be rich, start a private company. Don't tell anybody what the fuck you're doing. Yeah, exactly. But if you've taken tax dollars or money from the public in a publicly traded market, you better use that money not just to make the investors better off, but to make your product better off.